Welcome to Do Beautiful Things. I'm your host, Jenny Lawson, President and CEO of Keep America Beautiful. On this podcast, we explore all the ways, big or small, that people are stepping up to end litter, rethink recycling, and create cleaner, greener, and more beautiful communities. You'll hear from change makers, industry experts, community leaders, and everyday doers who are showing that when we unite to care for the places we love, we can make a real difference for each other and for the planet we share. So let's get inspired, let's get connected, and let's do beautiful things. Welcome back to Do Beautiful Things, and happy America Recycles Month. I know the day is coming up, but the month starts now. This episode is the second in a special series we're calling Recycling Reality Check. Recycling isn't always simple, though it's always important. Sometimes it can be downright confusing. Most of us want to do the right thing, but figuring out what can go where isn't always easy. Our goal with this series is to help clear up the confusion and give you confidence in your role in creating a more circular and sustainable future. Today, we're talking about something that might be sitting in your basement, your garage, or your closet right now. If you're watching HGTV, this is a product we've all used, but might not know what to do with when it's left over. The good news? There's a smart, sustainable solution that keeps it out of landfills, out of our homes, out of our waterways, and puts it to good use. Any guesses what it might be? To help us answer that question and show us the best way to handle it, I'm joined today by Brett Rogers, Vice President of Communications at Paint Care. Brett's here to share how Paint Care works, why it matters, and how a little effort from all of us can make a big difference for our environment. Brett, welcome to Do Beautiful Things.
Thank you so much. Happy America Recycles Month to you, and thanks for having me.
You know, it's an exciting time because America Recycles Month is this action-oriented period where we'll be like, okay, we know all the doom and gloom data about recycling, but the reality of it is when people figure out how to take action, they're willing to do it. And we've got data to back this up. There's a new research out this morning from WM that backs us up and says, yeah, people are willing to do this when they have access and they know how to access what they've got. And so I can't wait to talk with you today. As we were warming up, you jumped in. Tell me a little bit more about what is Paint Care?
Paint Care, first of all, is a nonprofit organization. So we're a 501c3. We were set up by paint companies. So this is an example of, industry-led product stewardship. You're seeing more and more of these in different fields. I'd like to say we're proud that paint companies were very ahead of the curve here because they recognized the need and they were willing to step up and create a program that they could lead and get into different states. It's a U.S. state by state approach. And once we're there, we're creating a system for you to easily and conveniently drop off paint for recycling so that takes the burden off the government and it gets some of that paint out of the landfill where otherwise it might end up.
So are there states where programs like Paint Care or Paint Care itself are more prevalent versus other states?
There are some localized programs. One of the nice things about Paint Care is we're going as a statewide approach, and that makes it a very level playing field. It follows a law getting put into place by the legislature, which the coatings industry will get involved in and help support. And that law makes it a sort of an equal playing field. All the manufacturers selling paint in that state, which are kind of similar state to state, but all the manufacturers selling paint in that state have to participate. They have to have the funding mechanism. The folks across the state will volunteer as retail collection, drop-off points, and everybody buying paint, using paint in that state then has access to it. So there are a few. We're moving into Illinois just at the end of this year. That's our next big state. Chicago has a small local paint recycling program where you pay a fee when you drop off. So the Chicagoland folks will get the benefit in our program of dropping off for free once we get that started and have the whole thing running. So yeah, you see a few like those. And we try to partner with them when we go into a new state.
So how about here in Connecticut?
I wasn't around when the program started. That's one of our very mature programs. I think it's been around about 10 years at this point. I can't recall if there was a local paint recycling program already. Now, one thing you see
But
a
there
lot.
is the piece of legislation, right? As you
Yeah,
talked about, like the
we're
model
operating there now.
is this sort of mandate from the state is sort of set up, and then you all step in. Well, you partner on getting the mandate in place, and then partner on helping locations and manufacturers and distributors actually recover paint.
Exactly right. Yeah, really around 10 years ago, the law went into effect in Connecticut, and Paint Care steps in as the representative of the manufacturers and sets up that network, that program, allows everyone to participate together. And we have something like 100% convenience in Connecticut. It's one of our most stellar programs where we have a site within 15 miles of the entire population of the state. So it's one of our most convenient from that point of view, and the program is well used, and we've collected just hundreds of thousands of gallons of paint in Connecticut.
As listeners know, I moved to Connecticut about 3 years ago now, a little over at this point. But when we moved in, there was 30 years, 40 years of paint in our basement. And I think we filled an entire Subaru trunk with paint cans that we certainly dropped off. And we're so grateful for having a good solution for managing that paint.
We hear that a lot, and that's actually one of the reasons we reach out not only to general consumers and businesses, but also like real estate agents and property managers. A lot of people inherit paint or just sort of come into it. They purchase it and use it, but they also get these tranches of it in their barns and sheds and garages, and probably left with good intentions. But if it doesn't actually get used, it ends up drying and spoiling and going to waste. And that occurs across the country, and that's why this program, we've replicated it now. We're in 11 states now, 13 states soon, and about a third of the country's population will have access to it at that point.
It's an interesting model overall. If you think about what actually is happening from a structural level, right? You've got manufacturers and producers working together with distributors and government to set up recycling policy, and in this case, it's paint. It's a very, very interesting model. For how we might think about other recycling structures. And I know as EPR legislation starts to really come in, this is a model that's functioning really well for informing what some of those other policies could look like.
We've seen that too, and we hear a lot from some of the newer EPR initiatives and have discussions. They like to hear about how we've operated, and there are a few different ways of doing it. There's a lot of strengths to the paint care model. One thing is our product is consistent across the country. It's sort of the same problem, the same product, and the product can be recycled relatively easily. I don't want to say easily because the processors out there might beg to differ, but it does. Yeah, it's a public-private partnership. The state, we set everything up and we put that in a plan. We get the state of Connecticut and the other states approval through the Department of Environment, and then we're reporting back to them every year. Full transparency. They can see where all the dollars go, what happened to all the paint, where did it all end up. And it works nicely. It takes the burden off them, but the government still has that oversight so that we're working together. And I do think that's a model that seems to work. And as opposed to just having taxpayers constantly have to go back to their counties for every last service.
Really very interesting. Let's drill down on the what happens part of the conversation.
Yeah.
So I dropped my paint off at Rings End or whatever my local distributor is. Once paint is collected, what happens to it?
Yeah, shout out to Rings End, one of our great local chains that has been volunteering to be a dropout point for a very long time. We love them. Yeah, what happens to it is that we have waste haulers, transporters who will go and pick up all that paint, and they're the ones charged with taking a look at it, seeing what they've got. The vast majority these days is latex-based paint, and we are accepting architectural paint, I should mention. So this is house paint, stains, shellacs, varnishes for buildings, interior, exterior. So a lot of it's the latex and water-based paints. And the great news is the majority of that can be sent to a latex paint recycler. So something like 3/4 of it is going to the recycler to be made back into paint. So, the recyclers are taking light colors, combining them, screening out impurities or dry bits. They all have their own process. There's a few different recyclers around the country. they might be checking for viscosity, doing some of the same things that a new paint manufacturer would be doing, brush tests and screen tests and getting a nice product, maybe a simplified palette, but a nice, affordable, recycled content paint product that can go back on the shelves.
That's awesome. Now, when it goes back on the shelves these days, is it identified as recycled paint so that people who are looking to really be a part of the circularity can search for that?
It really is. Yeah, I think the recyclers, they probably see the benefit of that. I mean, regardless of, just that sort of transparency in the product, I think a lot of them market themselves that way. It tends to be more affordable. It's a great product. I mean, it's good paint, and I know they market it as a terrific option for, especially for large scale projects. Maybe have like a big building like a school or just a large interior space that needs just a whole ton of white paint or cream or brown or whatever. That's a great product for you because it's gonna be more affordable and it's gonna be essentially the same material. Yeah, they sell it online. You're seeing it at sort of different stores these days, but I think Habitat for Humanity restores and other reuse stores like that, they like to feature it along with leftover paint that's been directly put out. So, that's a great place to find some of the recycled content stuff.
Excellent. As we all work to improve recycling rate and recycling participation, how do you see the paint care model expanding in the years ahead?
Oh boy, well, we're expanding right now. I mentioned, we have 2 new states on the horizon. So, like, right now working on them, almost ready to launch. We're launching in just a few weeks, December 1st in Illinois, so another big state for us. And then just a few months later in Maryland. We've been working on that one for a while. So that'll bring us to 13 state programs. I think I mentioned that's about a third of the US population if you look at those states. We're continuing to see states get interested in this. There are a lot of folks who reach out to us. It can be a lengthy process to go through and get legislative supporters and champions and bring all the parties together, but we've done it numerous times now together with the industry and the retailers and everyone involved. So we expect to see additional states after that. And then meanwhile, you mentioned other EPR laws coming through. Some of those overlap with our program, and we're watching those closely. There are now HHW, household hazardous waste EPR laws coming through in places like Vermont and California. There's packaging EPR happening in a few different states around the country. Paint comes in a package. A lot of paints are considered household hazardous waste. So we're talking with those state governments, working with them, seeing if we can actually expand our program in some places to go beyond just architectural coatings, just beyond taking some of those additional products that are a little trickier that we don't take right now, but covering those as well. So we're seeing that as a very likely expansion scenario for us in the next few years.
That's great because there are those sort of parallel products that still are, confusing.
Yes.
Even when you find a drop-off location, whether they get taken or not taken or yes or no, and
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a whole list of things we can't accept now, like the thinners and solvents and yeah, hazardous waste, household hazardous waste. We get a lot of questions about those. People need solutions for those materials too. They may not be used as much, but they are used and they're the stuff that really needs, support. So your only option usually is maybe a once a month collection at your county or town or something like that.
Yeah.
So we hope to both expand the program to give people that option in the states, especially in the states that, are working on that. And then if we can add additional convenience, we're happy to do that.
I do think it's a interesting conversation for the Keep America Beautiful network and how we can be aligned as sort of boots on the ground. I think here in Norwalk, there's opportunities for that, and would love to keep that conversation going to see what else we can do.
Yeah, I think there's good alignment. I mean, and we've met with different folks at Keep America Beautiful chapters in the past, and I'm really excited to get a little closer and see if we can do more together because I think the folks in your network are probably some of the folks who are most tuned into these issues, recycling for one, and keeping communities clean and well preserved.
Well, thank you. I want to make sure we close with clear instructions for people. For someone who's listening who has leftover paint at home, what's the single most important thing they should know and what should they do?
Personally, I think the single most important thing to know is don't hold on to it. That's number one, because a lot of people think, well, I purchased this paint. I'm going to need it in the future for touch ups or something that it's highly valuable. We know paint is, it's an expensive product. So I don't want to, I don't want it to go to waste or whatever. And then they hold on to it. And then, like I mentioned, A lot of times you hold on to it too long or pass it on to whoever's next. At that point, it's becoming deteriorated. It's probably not recyclable at a certain point. It may dry or spoil. It's hard to keep. And it is a problem. People buy too much. It's hard to get just the right amount. We do encourage folks to try to do that as best they can. But then we say use it up. See if you can use it up right in your home, on your walls, doing its job as a protective surface and coating, or on another project like painting a shelf or a cabinet or something like that. We have a lot of tips for that. Or give it away to a community group or someone who can benefit, school, church, whatever, who could use that paint, that valuable material. And what that does is it doesn't, you feel like you're not getting your money's worth, but the fact of the matter is you're saving everyone money because you're preventing that from having to be dealt with down the road. If you do have it though, the next best thing, and you can't use it up, next best thing is to go to our website, paintcare.org, and check our site locator if we're in your state. And we are in a lot of states now. So check our little site locator and it'll tell you where you can drop it off right nearby, hopefully.
Brett, thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to keeping this conversation going.
Thank you so much. We do too.
Well, that's all for today's episode of Do Beautiful Things. A big thank you to Brett Rogers for joining us and sharing how Paint Care is making it easier to keep leftover paint out of our landfills and put it to good use in our communities. If you've got leftover paint at home, remember, there's a smart, sustainable solution available to you. You can learn more about Paint Care and how to find your participating Paint Care locations at paintcare.org. Be sure to check out what we're doing at Keep America Beautiful to promote better recycling habits during America Recycles Month by visiting kab.org. And don't forget, our Recycling Reality Check series continues. In upcoming episodes, we'll explore innovative solutions keeping our national parks waste-free, plus other creative ways communities across the country are rethinking, recycling, and reducing waste. You won't want to miss it. So thanks for listening, and as always, take care, stay informed, and let's keep doing beautiful things together. See you in the next episode.